Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. How are you doing, sisters? We are going to start our class today, which is a kind of a continuation for what we started before, which is the analysis of my last Duchess as example on depending on the text and the text only, in order to explain according to the new criticism theory. We stopped by the last line, which is, "Oh, sir, she smiled no doubt." We already started to explain one major idea. What is this? Right? That this poem, it has a central tension. It has a major paradox. What is the major paradox? Yes. Right. It is a psychological study about the character of the Duke, much more about the wife herself. Right. So the point is that we would like to continue by showing the same central tension, that it tells us much more about that character. And another secondary central tension, that it tells us about something completely different from what he assumes. What does he assume? He assumes himself as being a noble man, a fearful man, a mighty man, but from the upper class. But we discover that he is a man who lacks self-confidence, right? Someone who is suffering a form of inferiority complex, and he has a character of a murderer, as well as a character of someone who is leading a group of gangsters. This is what we are going to discover now, when he says, right, the following: "Oh, sir, she smiled no doubt at me," right? Here, whenever I passed her, right? This tells us something good about the wife, that every time he passed, right, she smiled to him. She is not keeping a frowning face. She is not making his life miserable, right? On the contrary, she is very polite. Every time he passes her, she smiles at him, right? Which shows that she is behaving in a good manner, right? But, right, what makes him angry, that she is also smiling to other people, right? Which we find, I personally find something normal, right? Okay? Whenever I passed her, but who passed without much the same smile, right? As if he is trying to tell us that his wife was, right, smiling at everyone, right? And he doesn't like this kind of what? Behavior. Do you know why? Because he is not angry for himself. He is angry for his own, the family name. How come you are smiling at me and you are smiling to everyone, as if you are making, right, okay, my family name, right, that survived for 900 years with the family name of anyone else, right? And therefore, right, we find that his anger is not having a justification at all, right? As if his wife is supposed to be his own secretary, right? And he is giving commands to her whom to smile and whom not to smile, right? And who passed without much the same smile, asking the same question. This grew, right? This anger inside me became bigger and bigger. I couldn't control. And therefore, look at the way he speaks. I gave commands, right? He is, right? Yeah, he is, as I told you, he's a godfather. He is a godfather, right? And those under him, they are only a group of murderers, And after he gave commands, what happened? All smiles stopped together. Right? Right? This is coming the peak of the dramatic monologue. When he admits frankly that he killed his own wife. Why? Because she has a smiley face. Can imagine. Right? This is a part of her own nature. This is a part of her own nature. Right? Right? Then all smiles stopped again. Right? He killed her for no reason but having a smiley face. Right? He wants to control that smile. Right? While she is alive, but he couldn't, and therefore he killed her in order to control her smiles. Right? In her portrait. How? By putting a curtain. By putting a curtain. And the only one who opens the curtain is himself. Right? Then all smiles. Right? And to this point, I think the one who listens started to become disgusted of such a person. Right? Okay? While he comes to a conclusion. And there she stands as if she is alive. Right? And this is a good replacement of her. He is replacing the living, right, smiley wife with her picture, and even the picture is much more valuable to him than to what? To his wife. Why? Because he can control her smiles on one hand, and he can boast about having that portrait in front of others. But he couldn't boast of his own wife. He was not actually proud of his own wife, although she is innocent and right, very polite. But he is proud of having her own picture or her portrait. Right? And now he's asking the man to stand up. He is asking the man to stand up, giving commands to his own guest. So he says, "Well, please you rise," right? Controlling even the man when to sit down and when to what? Right, to stand up. "We will meet the company below then," right? "We will go down and meet the people who came with you, in company with you." Right? And who is the man who came with him? Who is the company? Right, the bride's father, the count. Right? Right, yeah. And therefore, right, I want you to to notice that he is going to shift, right, from boasting about having the portrait to, right, the actual purpose of the man. What is the existence of the reason behind the existence of his own guest? It is to negotiate, right, the dowry. And we are going to start with, right, this. I repeat. Right? When someone says I repeat, it means that he said this before more than one time. And we use the word I repeat to emphasize a certain idea that we are really interested in, and it is really important to us. When I tell you, for example, I repeat, right? I want you to come on time. Right? Which means that I said this one before, and this is really important for me, and this is why I am saying I repeat. I repeat. Right? So the usage of the word I repeat for emphasizing an important to what idea to the speaker. So what is the important idea to the speaker that he wants to emphasize, right? To make sure that the listener understood his own word. This is what he says. The count, who is the count? The father of the bride. Your master's non-magnificence. Look at this. The count, he is supposed to be his father-in-law. Right? But instead of calling my future master of father-in-law, he tells him, your master, yani sidak. Right? Right? Your master's non-magnificence. That it is, right, I am repeating that the generosity known about your master, the count, is and بالورنت is an enough guarantee. Enough guarantee, right? Not a pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed, right? That will be enough guarantee that he is not going to disallow me of having a good dowry. A lot of money. So what he is repeating, he is repeating on the same idea that I am repeating to you that, all right, I want enough and a good dowry, and the generosity which is very well known about the count will not prevent me from having that dowry. So this is what he cares about, right? We understand that this is a materialistic person who is not caring for the wife, but he cares for having a big dowry. And this is what we said. He lives at the expense of the women that he gets married to. And look at this. The way of arrogance. What's the meaning of arrogance here? Right? That he talks about his own wife. Why he is going to have a dowry, though his fair daughter self, as I avoid at starting, is my object. Right? Right? What he's trying, that I want to have good dowry because I promised from the beginning that I am going to get married to his beautiful daughter. يعني أنا اتنزلت كتير، يعني لازم تعطوني مصاري كتير عشان أنا I'm going to make his wife, his daughter, my object, not my wife. Look at this, right? That I am going to make his daughter what? My object, as if she is only a property that he is going to possess, like the one before. She is just an object, right? That he is going to possess. يعني انتوا لازم تعطوني مصاري كتير عشان بدي اتجوز بنتكم مش اتجوز عشان بدي اخليها عندي ايش؟ مش عارف ايه. Look at the way he speaks. Impolite. Arrogant. Do you understand what I mean? Right? That the way he speaks, it shows us that he's a materialistic, arrogant person who is impolite in dealing with his own, right, family-in-law. Family-in-law. And he is also anti-feminist. He is only considering women as objects, a property to own, and suppress. And if he couldn't suppress, what he's going to do? They will kill them. Right? What's the meaning of suppressing? Right? Yeah, controlling by force. Right? That he takes women as objects. Right? And he's going to suppress her. And if he couldn't suppress her, he's going to kill her. Right? Okay? In order to what? To feed up the arrogance inside himself. Right? Not only a murderer, but he is a women hater. Considering them as objects, a source of income. Women only a source of income. Unfortunately, this become part of our own culture. لما بده يخطب متوظفة ولا مش متوظفة؟ بالوكالة ولا بالحكومة؟ ومثبتة ولا بعقد مش عارف ايه؟ اوكي. تمام. صحيح. واذا كان عليها مخالفات ولا right? The man, the listener couldn't, right, bear the speaker. So he wanted to move because he is no longer able to what? To stay, to listen to this arrogant, stupid, right, dictator. So he wanted to move, right, to go. So he prevents him by telling him, no, nay, we will go together down. أنا وأنت اللي هننزل مع بعض, sir. Right? Can you imagine? Right? The way, right, he speaks, it made the person he wants to move. So he prevents him by telling him, no, don't go. Right? both of us will go. Do you know why both of us wants to go together? Because he has not finished boasting. Yeah, he wants to boast about something else, another property, right? That he is going to what? Right, to boast about. What is this time? A sculpture. What's the meaning of sculpture? Right, a statue, a sculpture, right? A sculpture for what? A sculpture for the god of the sea. His name is Neptune, all right? And Neptune is taming a seahorse, a seahorse. I want you to look at the sculpture that he is famous of, right? That he is proud of, right? That this he is proud of, right? Neptune as the god of the sea, riding a seahorse, and he's taming it. What's the meaning of taming it? Yeah, it is exactly, Neptune represents the man, and the horse represents the wives, right? Okay? And he also boasts by telling that the sculptor, what's the meaning of sculptor? The one who made the sculpture, right? نحت نفسه. The sculptor is a Claus of Innsbruck, a very famous sculptor, right, in the 18th century in Italy, like Fra Panlow. But I'm quite sure that it was not Fra Panlow, neither Claus of what? Of Innsbruck. So he says, the one who made this to me is a Claus of Innsbruck, right, who made it or cast it. What's the meaning of cast? يصبوا يعني, right? Who cast it in bronze for me personally. يعني صب لي إياه وسكر المصنع بعدي هذا, right? Okay, that he is also what? Bragging. He's also boastful, showing off about his own property. And this is how he deals with women. He deals with them as a property. But he couldn't have his wife as a property. So he killed her and he had her as a property, as a picture. Did you get the point? Right? And this is, if we continue, we will see, nay, right? Preventing the man from going down. And he says, we will go together down, sir. ما تروحش لحالك, أنا اللي نازل معاك. ليش لسه ما خلصتش؟ Notice Neptune, بقول له شايف? Right, notice here means look. Means look at Neptune. Right? Though taming a seahorse, it is the sculpture of Neptune while it is taming a seahorse. And he considers this a rarity. It is a rarity. As he said before about what? About the picture. What did he say? A wonder. And we discovered that it was not a wonder. So what do we expect here? That this one is not a rarity. Good, good. Into you are good now. Right? We will discover that he doesn't understand, all right, at all what's the meaning of what? Of يعني masterpiece of art. A masterpiece of art. Right? Notice Neptune, though taming a seahorse, thought a rarity which Claus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me خاصة. وبعديها ايش عمل؟ سكر. Right. So he doesn't stop babbling and boasting. What kind of a man? Right? I pity her. How could she live with him? Right? 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 I can imagine what kind of a conversation that, right, that they had. I don't think they had a conversation. Do you know why? Because we have only one speaker, one voice. Right? This man only listens to what? For himself. And this is why we don't hear, right, the voice of the second person. Right? Because this character is egocentric. Is egocentric. Right? Well, let's come to the form. Let's come to the form. Right? I want you how the form is part of the meaning. Right? We said, right, that we are not supposed to consider, right, the paraphrasing as part of what? Why? Because paraphrasing, it drops. Right. I want you to notice this, right? Okay, from the first beginning, that's my last touches on the wall, looking as if she were alive, I cool. Right? This is wall and cool. Then that piece of wonder, right now, for a panel of hands, work busily a day, or that stands. Right? Yeah, double, every 2 lines. Right? Okay. This, we call it a heroic couplet. A heroic. No, hold on. Just شوي. Right? The heroic couplet, right, is actually, right, a kind of a stanza, right, that is supposed to consist of 5, right, syllables. 1 stressed, 1 unstressed. We call it iambic pentameter. We call it iambic pentameter. Pentameter, which means 5 feet. 5 feet. يعني زي ما احنا بنقول تفعيلة مكون من 5 تفعيلات. 5 تفعيلات. Right? Okay. Each feet consists of 2 syllables. Right? One is a stressed syllable and the other is unstressed. Right? Okay? Fine. And according to its own composition, right, this stanza was used at the time of the 18th and 19th century by the elite during the neoclassical period. Right? That those elite people, high people from the upper class, whenever they wrote poetry, they used the heroic couplet, right? In order, so he is using the heroic couplet in order to show that he is from, right? Good, right? So we understand now that the heroic couplet was used by, right, the courtiers. We call them the courtiers. What does the meaning of courtiers? Those who live in the court. So this is what he tries to explain to us. As long I am using what? Using the heroic couplet, because I am from the upper class, from the elite. But then we will discover that the form itself, it shows the opposite. How? Right? Because the heroic couplet is supposed, as I told you, the rules, is supposed to, right, consist of 5 syllables. All right? The first line is supposed to have, right, okay, to end up with a pause, right? We call it a small pause, usually a comma. And the second line is supposed to finish with a period. And each stanza, right, must reflect one idea. Right? Okay? So we come to, for example, right, to the heroic couplet. It was actually used a lot in the sonnets of William Shakespeare, or right, of Spenser, right? And it comes at the end of the sonnet as a kind of a conclusion, which is giving the central idea of the whole sonnet, right? Okay, at the end of the poem. But here, what do we find? We find that the man doesn't know how to use the heroic couplet, right? That which shows that he is ignorant in using, right, the heroic couplet, right? So we will continue by telling you that the form here, it shows that he is not actually good in using, right? Right. How? Right. If we look at the first line, right, it ends with a comma. But the second line, it doesn't end with what? With a period. Look at the fourth one, right? It doesn't end with a comma, right? And the fourth one ends with a period. And so on and so forth. Here we don't have even commas, right? Which means that, right, that he doesn't know that it is each one of them is supposed to reflect a complete idea. On the contrary, he is using it, right, or using all the lines to talk about the same idea, right? And if we look at the whole form, that we don't have a stanzaic pattern. You see, we don't have stanzas, right? Right? I mean a stanza which is different from the other stanza. All right? So this man is using what the heroic couplet to show off that he is from the upper class like the previous, right? But his usage, right, we discover that he doesn't know how to use the heroic couplet, or, right, that the conditions of using the heroic couplet, which reflects the same idea that he is ignorant, right, in using the what? The heroic couplet. Exactly as he made judgments on what? On, right, the art, when he considers, right, his wife's picture as a wonder, unequal, and the Neptune is a rarity, but we discover later that it has been done busily, right, and in one day. It has been done busily and in one day, which reflects that there is no wonder can be done busily in one day, right? So even the form here is part of the meaning. The form is part of the meaning. What is the meaning? Which is showing the central tension. This man tries to show off that he is very well educated and he knows how to, right, to judge art and to use literature. But the form tells us the opposite. Tells us the opposite. What we have we done, right, so far, right? I'm going to summarize, right? We did not depend on history nor on the biography of the author, and all what we did, that we depended on the text and the text only, right? We made a form of paraphrasing in order to explain the meaning. We discussed, right, the diction, the etymology, the choice of words, right, the connotations and the denotations of the words, right, we also explained, right, okay, the form, right, which helps in understanding, right, the meaning. We explained the central tension and how the speech is actually, right, explaining the central tension. We have two central tensions that the poem is telling us much more about, right? And it tells us also, right, okay, that this man, all right, is the opposite of what he is claiming. He claims to be, right, expert in art, knowledgeable, right? He is a man of a mighty character, but we discover the opposite. We discover the opposite, which is all the paradoxes found in the poem, right? Well, here we can say that this is going to be considered as an example for, right, a new criticism. In your book, there is, right, a written essay about the poem, which is very similar to what I, right, explained inside the class, right? This essay is really necessary for you, right? Once, for example, I ask about this, right, in the exam, you are supposed to refer to what I have explained inside the class and what is written in the essay in your book. So I am saying this essay is really important. I repeat, right? Emphasizing something very important, right? A materialistic person who wanted only, right, the money of the new wife in order to make her an object. Look at the way he speaks when he says, right, yani, you have to give me a lot of money because I am going to take his, right, beautiful daughter and make her my object. يعني هذه ولا في الأحلام يعني, right? Okay? Well, right, so I am saying, right, again, that this one is really important. You need to read at home, right? And to make a kind of what, right, to collect what has been said inside the class as well as what is mentioned inside in order to have a good answer once I ask about this in the, right, the final exam. Right? Tamam. Okay. Well, we are done with this theory, and we are going to have another application. This application is going to be done but right, I need to remind you that this is going to be included. This is going to be included in the final exam. I might ask you to what? To make a kind of a new criticism application of whom, of what? Of the daffodils. We analyzed it as from a romantic point of view. Today we are going tomorrow on Monday, inshallah, we are going to analyze it from a new criticism point of view. Right? Inshallah. Allah yatikum al-afiyah.